Hello and welcome to Virtual CONjuration 2020. My name is Darren M. Bush, sometimes known as the Professor. This is the before panel before some sword and sorcery movies. What I'm going to do before we get into the details is I'm going to allow our panelists to introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Sarah. If you'll introduce yourselves to the CONjuration audience, please.
Hi, I'm Sarah J. Sover. My book, Double Crossing the Bridge, just released last year from the Parliament House. And since this is a family event, I feel obligated to say it's for children, the way that Deadpool is, in that it's not at all. But I've also got some articles for Dan Cobalt's Science and Science Fiction Fact and Fantasy blog series, some short fiction in the Jordan Kahn anthologies, and a few other projects going on.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah. So what I'm going to do is ask Ellie to introduce herself to our audience.
Hi, I'm Ellie Rant. I write the Necrosine Chronicles. It's an award-winning fantasy series. It's about reapers, demons, and dragons.
Excellent, excellent. And Kyle, if you'll introduce yourself.
Sure, I'm Kyle Mitchell, basically lackey of the professor, trying to just catch some of the light from his beacon. No, I am a longtime Atlanta Con goer, distinguished Toastmaster, published poet, 2 books of poetry, and also proud member of the Dead Pirates of Sci-Fi Fandom, who run the con suites and green rooms and so forth, a lot of Atlanta conventions.
Excellent. And I am going to also say that I'm a science fiction and fantasy author. My short stories are available on the Kindle on the Amazon store. And so let me go back to the beginning. I'm embarrassed to make that kind of mistake in front of Kyle, who knows how to do this. This is the movie anniversary watch party for sword and sorcery. So here's what we're going to do is we are going to focus on some movies that have important anniversaries this year. There are a lot of them, and I'll get to that in just a second. What we're going to do is the 4 of us are going to spend this before panel talking about what we know about the 3 movies that we have kind of mutually decided to view in between this panel and the after panel, if you will. And we will see what sort of hilarity ensues. I promise you it's worth the ride. What I would also say is if you're watching this video and at the end of it you go, okay, wait a minute, hold on, I've got to play along with this, please feel free to watch as many of the movies as you can get a hold of and join us for the after panel, and we'll tell you what we thought about them with some slight editing. Okay, so the movie anniversaries for CONjuration this year, there's a huge list. I mean, it's an overwhelming mound. There's no way we could cover all of them. So I just want to really quickly run these down so we know what we were choosing from so that you can really be upset at us when you find out which 3 we picked. It's the 80th anniversary of Pinocchio and Fantasia. It's the 70th anniversary of Cinderella. And then for some reason, there's a jump and we skip up to the 40th anniversary of Hawk the Slayer. It's the 30th anniversary of Neverending Story 2 and The Witches, which is being remade, I understand. I'm looking forward to that. It's the 20th anniversary of Dragonheart New Beginning, which is the 2nd Dragonheart movie. The 20th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons, not 3rd edition, but the movie. And then it's the 20th anniversary of Highlander Endgame, which some of you are in denial about, but it is out there. And then there is a huge list of 10th anniversary movies, and this is just in alphabetical order. Alice in Wonderland, Clash of the Titans, Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows Part 1, How to Train Your Dragon, woohoo, Legend of the Guardians, the one with the owls, Narnia, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, Prince of Persia, Sorcerer's Apprentice, and Tangled. And so, okay, thanks, guys. That's the panel. We're out of time. No, I'm kidding. So there's a lot of movie anniversaries to celebrate this year at CONjuration. We are going to cover a couple or 3 of these in some of the other panels that will happen over the weekend. That's coming up November 6th through 8th. Remember, November 6th through 8th is virtual CONjuration. But here's the 3 we picked. Kyle, should I make you tell them which 3 we picked?
Go ahead.
You're going to anybody want to help me out with this? No. Okay.
We're all proud of this short list. It's great.
We're all proud of, but not willing to take it. Okay. So the 3 movies that we picked for the list are the sword and sorcery theme, as I said before. So we're obviously going to be watching the 20th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons, the 40th anniversary of Hawk the Slayer, and because Highlander Endgame is that both the 20th anniversary and it's like the third or fourth or fifth Highlander movie, we're actually going to watch the first Highlander movie, because that way we don't have people who are starting at number 3 or number. You'll see why in a few minutes. So let me just run that down one more time. Hawk the Slayer, Dungeons and Dragons, and Highlander 1 to stand in for Highlander Endgame. Ooh, so what, Sarah? I'm sorry, you had something to say?
I was just apologizing.
We should all say
In advance.
in advance, you are going to be sorry that you watched. No, this is going to be a lot of fun. So I want to start out by saying that I did a tiny bit of homework, and I found that of these 3 movies, they should all be available for folks on the various streaming services. They're not, if you're going to rent them on Amazon or something like that, they're not that expensive. But we're not going to waste time talking about that. You should be able to find all 3 of these movies. So let's start with this, which is, how many of these movies have you already seen, regardless of how long ago it was? I'm going to pick on Kyle first.
Well, so 2 of the 3, I have not seen Hawk the Slayer.
Okay.
But I don't think I've actually seen Highlander Endgame. So if we had been watching that, and I might take that on as a challenge as well, but I've definitely seen the other 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I failed to mention that we're doing a point system. No, we're not doing a point system. If we were, there'd be extra points for actually watching the Highlander movies up to Endgame. And we could do a whole panel on why there's a movie in there you should skip and go right to the third. Anyway, so Sarah, how about you? How many of these 3/4 movies have you seen?
Okay, so the reason I agree to do this is because Darren is great at finding these hidden gems that I somehow have not been on my radar or I skipped. And this kind of gives me the opportunity to tell my husband that he has to sit there and watch these terrible movies with me for work. So none. That's my long way of saying I have not seen any one of those movies.
Okay.
For work, I like that.
For
Work.
Ellie, how about you?
I have seen Dungeons and Dragons. I've seen the first Highlander. I didn't know there were more Highlanders. So
There's only supposed to be one, I hear.
So I guess technically 2, and I've never heard the other one.
Excellent. That was perfect. There's people in the audience going, that could be only one. So the answer for me is, I have watched the Dungeons and Dragons movie about a dozen times. Don't judge. I was aware of Hawk the Slayer, but I'd never actually watched it. And I actually think that even though I've watched the first Highlander movie a gazillion times, I don't think I ever watched Endgame. I have no memory of the film. I was aware of it, but anyway. So my answer is 1.5, right? Not that we're keeping score. Okay, so let's run down this. We're going to spend pretty much the rest of the panel kind of explaining why people should be so upset at us that they should watch these movies with us and come back for the second panel. Let's see here. Let's start as easily as possible to warm up to this. What about, so at least 3 of us have seen the Dungeons and Dragons movie. So Sarah, why haven't you watched the Dungeons and Dragons movie? I assume you've heard of it.
Yes, of course. I've kind of, and I'm going to lose some people here. I've kind of avoided Dungeons and Dragons for most of my life because in 9th grade, I was interested in learning how to play. We had a free period at school and we all went and hung out in the coolest teachers, it was high school, classroom. He was also the president of the SCA. I remember untangling his beard from his chainmail at one point. So that was our cool professor. But anyway, there was a group of my friends that would sit there and play Dungeons and Dragons. And it was the first kind of gatekeeping experience that I experienced just for being female. Because I went and I asked them to play. I didn't realize until years later what really had happened. I asked them to teach me how to play, and they just used the opportunity to mess with me. And that was not how you play. I have learned since, but I just never came back to it. So I just never really saw it. I heard the movie was around and I just never really had much of an interest in it, but maybe we can reclaim it with this panel.
No, we can't. This movie is also not how you do it. We'll talk about it in the after once you guys have seen it again or seen it for the first time. No, this movie is not how you play D&D in a movie. That conversation comes later. I think that it's unfortunate that you got, what's the verb? Gatekeeped? Is that, no, whatever. Gatekeep, you got gatekeeped. I think it's unfortunate because D&D is a really amazing universe and game and everything, as a lot of our people that are listening are aware. If I was going to try and convince you to play, I would get a group of people together, like this group of cool people together, and try and kind of ease you into playing D&D. Making you watch the movie first is not how I would get you interested in playing D&D with us. So
I'll take
Ellie,
it with a grain of salt then.
yeah, please don't let this make your experience with D&D worse. Just, it's in a separate compartment on the side. So Ellie, what do you remember about this movie?
I mean, it's not that inspiring. Like, what I remember is not that inspiring because it's literally just, I remember dungeons and I remember dragons. I don't remember what happens. I just remember little flashes of scenes of some dude running through a dungeon, stone walls, iron gates, and I remember a dragon on a tower. That's about it. So it's pretty straightforward, so that's all I got. It's been a while.
Yeah, actually, I can't disagree with that synopsis. Kyle, can you add to the synopsis a little bit?
Yeah, nailed it. Yeah. Well, for me, I grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons, like 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 3.5. I haven't played 5e, the new one, but for me, growing up, it was like a rite of passage, and thankfully, really mostly good experiences. But you're involving humans, so that's gonna happen. And it, so it was really like Funyuns and flagons, as they say. With drinking Mountain Dew and Funyuns in the basement and role playing, and so I was really excited when finally they were going to make a released in theatrical motion picture for Dungeons and Dragons, and then we got this fine film. Wink, wink. I remember, I think, Jeremy Irons as a Grand Mage or something, and pretty bad special effects with like lightning out of his staff or something. And one of the Wayans brothers, am I remembering right? I'm thinking, okay, Marlon, maybe, I can't remember. And that's about it. And then, like Ellie said, the Dungeons and the Dragons,
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah. I just
could have gone straight to DVD.
I think I saw it in the theater. I really do think I saw it in the theater.
I definitely saw it
Yeah.
in the theater. Yeah.
But yeah, there's a DVD of it back here behind me on the wall. The thing I remember most about watching Dungeons and Dragons in the theater was having my Muggle friends come to me, a month later and go, "Oh, I saw that movie. That was interesting. Is that what the game's like?" And I'm sitting there going, "Not exactly. That's not exactly how the game works." But it was amazing to me how it turned out to be this really interesting thing for people who had no intention of ever playing the game, and for those of us who had played the game forever, it was a little disappointing.
So Darren, you've seen this movie so many times. What is the THACO of the movie Dungeons and Dragons? Sorry.
Okay.
So,
for those of you keeping score, Kyle just got 3 nerd points. No, the THACO of this movie is a 9, I think.
The 2-hit armor class.
2-hit armor class 0, yeah. So for those of you who are trying to Google what the heck Kyle just said, it's THAC the number 0, THACO.
Makes you keep watching it.
I always pronounce it THACO, but we always used to make fun of people who called it THACO. So that's the only reason I said it.
It's unpronounceable.
Another debate for another panel.
I thankfully Sarah was trying to get some words in there and trying to interrupt this conversation. Go ahead, Sarah.
I was just asking if it's that bad of a representation of the game and contrary to your experiences and stuff, what makes you keep going back and watching it if you've seen it so many times?
Okay, so we'll go over this in some detail in the after. I want Sarah to have seen it because I don't want to ruin the parts that are ruinable. There are 2 or 3. The thing that I really like about this movie, in a very problematic movie, which was dear to my heart until I saw it, is that there's some moments that really are truly representative of what it feels like to be sitting at a table with 3 other gamers and go, can I please just, the thing over, it's over there. Can I roll the die again, or please? There's this moment where the lead character is a rogue, which all my friends that love playing rogue characters are just, they're thrilled that the rogue was the hero. Finally, the rogue is the hero character. Yeah, but there's several moments where it was very roguish. There were a lot of pit traps and a lot of, puzzles to solve and things like that. So there were parts of it that were very funny. I think it's Damon Wayans. Damon Wayans is a delight in this movie. He is the comic relief, and his character knows he's the comic relief and plays it as if on his character sheet it says the comic relief. It's that part's kind of meta, and it's very funny. The other thing that's worth mentioning is that the guy who played Riff from Rocky Horror Picture Show has a brief, 10 minutes. And it's serious typecasting. It's awesome. It's wonderful to see him in this movie. So, okay, all right. Anything else on this before we move on? Ellie's hoping I don't call on her again for this one.
Roll for initiative.
That's all I had. Just the Dungeons and the Dragons.
The Dungeons and the
Dragons.
Dragons.
Else to say, because I don't remember the actual story.
So for those of you that are wondering why I'm laughing, go to YouTube and Google, search in YouTube for The Dungeons and the Dragons. It's one of the funniest little 4-minute movies about D&D playing and culture ever. It's hysterical. Okay, anyway, so for the sake of time here, I want to move on to, let's go right into the middle and go with Hawk the Slayer. Now, did anybody say they'd seen this one yet? I don't think so. Okay, so we're done. We'll move to the third movie. Does anybody remember or know anything about this movie?
Was this the medieval dog, the bounty hunter? No. Okay, that's.
Can we get a synopsis or something?
The synopsis. The synopsis is, and don't forget, this is 40 years ago, that our man Jack Palance, who's great at playing bad guys, was a sword and sorcery bad guy. He was a I think it's all that weird Darth Vader stuff. Right after New Hope came out. So basically the movie begins with Jack Palance killing his father in order to fulfill the prophecy. It's that kind of. It starts off like that. There's a magical sword. There's a hero, and the hero Hawk has to travel these fantasy lands and defend himself from weird monsters and creatures and spells and stuff, and defeat Jack Palance as the bad guy. That's it. That's all I remember. There's, it's one of those movies where you can tell by the cover of the VHS case that they were trying too hard. Something weird was going on there. So I don't know what we're in for.
Can I look up the cover really quick? Because I'm curious.
You have my permission to look up the cover. You all have my permission to go look up the cover.
My friend just showed it to.
Oh, somebody's cheating there.
What am I looking at?
Now I have to tell you, I'm not an expert on fencing or sword use, but I'm pretty sure that holding it like this isn't really, it's not a great move. But
you hold it vertically to charge it, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. This way to charge it, and this way to text message your dead father about the sword. And anyway,
he was tapping it, well before Magic the Gathering.
Well, very good. A Magic the Gathering reference here.
Was it a lightsaber? Because it kind of looked like it from here.
No, this is kind of classic fantasy sword and sorcery. It's
just magic shining off the sword.
Yeah, so it's we'll find out the hard way, won't we? I don't know why his name is Hawk the Slayer. I don't remember that being meaningful. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's just one of those movies where you go, wow, they made that movie. Okay, so anything else on this one before we? I'm
real curious about it.
Yeah, I'm very curious. Yeah, because you're kind of hoping they didn't steal from Star Wars too much, and you're kind of hoping that they did some original interesting stuff, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
Sounds like it could be like right up my alley. It sounds like the kind of terrible movie that I would probably end up really enjoying.
Yes, for those of you who are new to this conversation, Sarah shocked the crowd with her entire investment and emotional commitment to Gremlins 2.
It's fabulous.
Yes, yeah, different panel, but yeah. So I'm kind of hoping that Sarah will come back later and go, I don't know what you guys are complaining about. I love this movie. I bought it on Blu-ray. I got the movie poster on the wall because I love the movie poster so much.
There's a good chance.
Can we get a scale of like what to expect from it? Should we expect an Aragon movie level?
Can you explain that to our CONjuration audience?
Well, I mean, love the books. That movie, awful. Just an awful movie.
Yeah.
Like they basically took everything that was interesting and unique and lovable about the books and they just sapped it dry. Sapped it bone dry.
Okay, so I cannot confirm this. This is my guess, but my guess is very good news for Ellie, which is there is no book to be upset about.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure this is an original story.
But like, I want to know if I should expect that level of bad movie in general. Like as a standalone movie, is it gonna hold its own as a story? Or is it gonna be like, I don't know what the heck's going on?
I don't think you got the idea of what we're trying to do here. I think you should put on your seatbelt.
Okay.
I think this is a seatbelt, and because of the nature of CONjuration and how it's a family convention, I cannot condone the use of, let's call it, medicine in order to take the edge off of a movie like this. But I also cannot judge people for thinking that would be a good idea. Let's see if I can get that past the censors. All right. Speaking of the censors, we do have a good chunk of time left because I guess Hawk the Slayer was kind of the bridge of this panel. But let's move on to the next series that we're talking about. It is the 20th anniversary of Highlander Endgame, which I swear I did so little homework for this panel on purpose that I can't remember if it was the third movie or the fourth movie. Okay, so Sarah is it's the fourth Highlander movie. Okay, so Highlander was the first movie I ever bought on DVD. I finally got my hands on a DVD player, and somebody said, "Let's go buy a DVD," and I went, "It's got to be Highlander. I want to see what it's got to be Highlander. I want it." There it was. I bought it. Love this movie. Seen it a gazillion times. I'm going to enjoy watching it again, and then trying to make the trek to watch Endgame. I'm going to try and get to Endgame, but I can't promise. So, who else said they'd seen it? I'm sure Kyle saw it.
Yeah, I've seen the original several times.
Okay.
Love Sean Connery as Spaniard, right? Ramirez.
So he's an Egyptian, Spanish, Scottish accent samurai sword carrying. It's a little confusing.
Yeah, but okay, I'm sorry, I'm plugging in my phone here. I thoroughly enjoyed the original Highlander, and it's the quickening, or it's the opposite of the quickening, the slowing of my phone.
It's a slowing.
So, yeah, no, I'm excited to go back and watch the original. It's got great soundtrack, and also. Beginning of a franchise that I always love that, for beginning of a new franchise, and then going to see how it gets corrupted by the fourth movie.
So, Ellie, how many of these movies have you seen?
One.
The first one, right? Sarah, remind me, what was your count on this?
I have not seen it. I attempted to watch it once. So
the first one.
I attempted to watch the first one at one point, but what happened was I was told that I would really enjoy it, and I believed it. And then I was on Twitter and I kept seeing everybody talking about it. So I went and I looked up what everybody on Twitter was talking about, which was not the Highlander, it was Outlander. I sat
Oh,
there and I sat there and I watched like the first, and I was like, what? I don't understand. Who said I would like but then I was committed and had to watch all of it, of course. So
Slight
So-
difference in storyline.
so you
a little bit.
so you were heading toward Highlander and didn't
That's-
make it.
That's what I was looking for. It didn't occur to me until after I'd watched like the whole first season. I was like, what?
Wow. Okay.
Oops.
So this I not scripted. I did not know that was going to happen. I'm stunned. Those of you who know me, I'm speechless, which never happens, except around these people. Okay, so Sarah, let me just for the record, let me clarify that this is a movie. It's about an hour and a half long. It stars Christopher Lambert, and it's more than 20 years old. And there's swords in it. I don't know if Outlander has swords or not, but this one has swords, which is why it's part of this grouping. So Ellie, what's your memory of the first Highlander? I mean, I assume you actually watched it.
I mean, I assume we don't want spoilers. Do we want?
No, we're not up for spoilers yet, if we can help it.
Okay, because like I actually remember a lot more about this movie than I did for Dungeons and Dragons. So it's best I guess I can say is there can be only one. So I guess that's why I only watched the first one.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
No, absolutely.
Took it literally.
No, there is a lot of discussion among the Highlander fans about the second movie, which has all kinds of offensive joke names. I think the least offensive one is Highlander 2, Give Me More Money. The second one was just bizarrely horrible and had nothing to do with the first. So the problem with the Highlander movies is that the first one was well received and successful. It was very. I don't want to give anything away for Sarah, but it was very different. It really truly stood out, especially at the age when it came out. I believe it came out in the mid to late 80s. It was different. It was distinct. It was a lot of fun too. It started weird, it stayed weird, and it ended weird. In the sense that these people were like, we're not trying to fit into some Hollywood boxes. We're gonna do our own thing and see if you guys like it. And we did. We liked it. We really liked it. And then they made another movie, and we all went, okay, did you guys just in the first 3 minutes change the entire mythology of the entire everything? Like
Probably.
Sarah's a science person. You'll hate that. You'll hate the first 4 minutes of the second movie if you like the first movie, because they go, remember all those rules from the first movie? Nah, we're gonna throw those out. We're gonna completely reinvent everything. Go.
Yeah, that's how you lose me.
Yeah, that's how they lost a lot of people. And then somehow they got around to making a third movie, which I have seen, and then Endgame is the fourth one. And for those of you who aren't aware, Highlander was a successful TV show that ran for, I think it was 5 or 6 seasons, something like that. I've got most of them on the shelf behind me. And it was an interesting way to do a TV series, because essentially, spoiler for Sarah here, you've got a character who's immortal. And so reviewing all the different people they ran into in their immortality makes for a great television series. It's a great premise for a TV series. It's not a great premise for 4 movies. It doesn't. So that worked better on TV. So the fourth movie, Endgame, brings the 2 Highlanders, the one from the movies and the one from the TV show, together. Which, if you've seen the first movie, makes you go, "What? How is that possible?" Anyway, whatever. We won't dig too far into that. So what we want to try and do, let me explain for our audience, because they may be a little confused about this. It's the 20th anniversary of the 4th movie, but we're actually going to go back and watch the first movie, because if we were to essentially have Sarah start at movie number 4, I have a funny feeling that would be an actual painful experience. Not a kind of a Hawk the Slayer enjoyable painful experience, but an actual, like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't get any of the in-jokes. I don't get any of the premises at all, whether it's from whichever version of the universe it is. Ellie, were you going to say something?
Yeah, from what you were saying, it sounds like I would also be confused since they changed all the rules from the first movie. So if I haven't seen even the second one, I assume I would also be confused.
Well, since we're kind of creating a little bit of a problem here for ourselves with essentially ignoring the fourth movie and saying, let's just watch the first movie, which I think is a good idea. I would hate to say to anybody, do me a favor, watch all 4 of these movies real quick. We're not going to do that. But let's do this. Let's see if we can figure this out. If we were really going to say we want to get Ellie up to Endgame, Kyle, you're going to have to help me with this. Can we just completely ignore the second and third movies and skip from 1 to 4?
From my vague memory, I honestly think you probably could.
I think so.
I actually believe you could. I don't remember I don't remember a lot of the details, but and then if you've never seen the series with Adrian Paul, that could be a little bit weird. Like, you don't get the effect, as much, but.
So the rule changes you were talking about.
Yeah.
Do they apply from that moment on, or is it just kind of like a flash in the pan and we're done and we're back to original rules?
Well, see, now that's why Kyle and I are scratching our collective heads here, because I think that they sort of retconned in the third one, and I have no idea in the fourth one because I don't think I ever saw it. I heard somebody jokingly refer to Highlander 3, The Apology, and I was like, I don't know if that's really accurate or not. Again, just if people are wondering, we didn't do any prep for this. This is the before panel. I'm not supposed to know these things yet. At the after panel, we'll have all this straightened out. But so my memory is there's no point in watching any of this stuff without watching the first movie. If you get to the end of the first movie and you go, I'm going to put up my little blanket of security and I'm not going to know anything else about any other Highlander, you're good. First movie's awesome. It's incredible. It's wonderful. But if you were going to try and catch up with us and watch Endgame, then I would say, and I think Kyle agrees, skip 2, absolutely skip 2. And I think you can skip 3 also. Because 1 will set the universe up for you, get the basic ideas set up. And then the fourth movie is essentially the way they kind of tied it all up together between the movies and the TV series. So they bring in the movie Highlander and his cousin, the television Highlander. They bring them together, and I'm going to guess they save the world again. I think that's a safe bet. So Kyle, what do you think? Does that work for you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Hey, go for, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Is I'm not going to watch all 4 of them. I'm just going to watch the original as we're instructed by the professor, and then I will then try to watch episode 4. No, we shouldn't call that episode 4.
Okay, all right. So Sarah, does that make sense? I think we're both.
Yeah, I honestly think it might be kind of cool if Ellie and I both try to do that. If you can, I don't know, I'm not speaking for her, but like if I'm going to try to do that as well. But
I was going to try it.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm able to time wise, but just because if you guys have more of the background in the world and stuff, it's going to be a much starker contrast for us to watch the first one and then the last one and see if it still holds up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's a great experiment.
It's not the last one, is it? When I looked at the wiki, I cheated a little bit. I looked at the wiki.
Okay, so Sarah, you're gonna
look at the plot. I just looked at the introduction.
What happened to no preparations? I feel so behind.
I'm not good at no preparation.
It was a test. It was a test for me too, because I was researching which of these movies was available on YouTube. Hawk the Slayer, and I found Hawk the Slayer on YouTube, and I went and got distracted, and I realized I was watching the movie, and I was like, wait, pause, I'm cheating. No, Sarah will kill me. So I accidentally watched like 3 minutes of it, 4 minutes of it. Don't judge. But okay, so Sarah, I know you might break my heart, but I'm going to take a chance. How many Highlander movies are there total, according to the
Don't
wiki?
remember, I made myself stop. I made myself close it because I didn't want to keep getting deeper into the article. I thought there might be one more afterwards, but I'm not sure. I know that that's the fourth one. And because I was talking to my husband, and we are binge type people. And once the kids go to bed, that is our time. Like that's it. So what I do is I tell him he's working with me. So he's coming to work with me.
Mm-hmm.
And and I subject him to all this stuff. So, but I know us, and if we like the first one, we probably would be open to the next day watching the second one. And apparently that's a bad idea. So I'm glad I brought that up.
Well,
No,
my research department, aka Alex's hand that you saw earlier, tells me yes, there was one more movie after this fourth one. So I think you were right. There are 5.
There are
total.
5. Oh, because okay, this is high.
Hopefully
This
the
is
whole hand, because after that, well, we don't want to spoilers. Okay.
no, that's Star Wars. That's something else. But I gotta say, that is so typical of the Highlander movie series. Is that there would be a movie after Endgame?
Right. You don't know when to stop. Why would you call it Endgame? Because it's ironic.
Yeah, this is right.
Oh,
So,
well, that's kind of like the Final Fantasy games.
yeah, well, now hold on, wait a minute.
You know the story behind why they called the game Final Fantasy, like all of them? For the first one, they legit thought it wasn't going to go anywhere. They thought it was basically going to be the last game they ever did with this universe. So they called it Final Fantasy because that's what it was. The Final Fantasy game. The last one they were going to do because they didn't think it would go anywhere. And then it blew up. And so each time they didn't think it was going to continue. So they kept thinking it was going to be the final one. But it just kept going. So eventually they're like, well, I guess this is the name of it now.
Wow.
That's so typical of creatives. I mean, how many books do I have called Final Draft, Final Draft 1, Final Draft 2?
I don't want to talk about that.
No, I am still years later going back over stuff because I'm gonna republish it, and I'm just reading it through real quick, and I'm finding typos, and I'm like, this was published, like 3 people edited this thing, and there's a typo right there. It's the same thing. It's Final Fantasy that your rough draft has ever actually completed. But Ellie also brings up another good point, which is that if you think of the Highlander movie series as episodes in the Final Fantasy games, you can kind of go, okay, all right. So each of these movies is distinctly unique and different from each other. So I'm allowed to hate the second one and ignore it and like the fourth one or the fifth one or whatever, because it doesn't matter. Because I have not played a lot of the Final Fantasy games, maybe 2 or 3 of them. But one thing I've noticed is that name doesn't mean you're going to run into the same heroes over and over again. No.
Unless you have a -2 or a -3, you're not going to get it. You might have similar or the same universe. Like if you go to Final Fantasy, it's got everything because it's amazing because it's an MMO. So they integrate all of the worlds and all of the games like seamlessly into the entirety of the world. So that's kind of the only thing I would say connects it all. Kind of, but like everything else is like, yeah, you can just play them standalone. You don't have to play one to know the other, unless it's Final Fantasy X-2 or Final Fantasy 13-2, or is there a third one for 13? I don't remember anymore. There's so many.
Different panel. So we are actually starting to wind down here, and I'm glad we covered Highlander that deeply because despite the subtitle on the first movie, there's a lot more than just the one. So we're talking about the Highlander movies as if it is some huge shock that there's different levels of quality between the first one and the second one and whatever. But I got to ask you guys, just kind of as a follow-up, can you think of another example where the second installment of a series, whether it's movies, games, television, was just terribly disappointing? I'm gonna actually pick on Kyle first on this one.
Recent experience, I will have to say, Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Of course, the first one was a classic. Maybe not a near perfect movie, but it was great. And then you had Beneath the Planet of the Apes just almost ruin it until the end, which then almost retconned the series within its own movie or something. Like maybe at least I would love to see the behind the scenes of that. Like if they saved it, within the movie up to filming or in post-production or something. So that came to mind, Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, that's an excellent example because I love the first movie. Recently watched the second movie and was just like, what? What happened? What? So yeah, that's a very good example. Sarah, what about you? Can you think of an example?
I mean, I think it's unavoidable that when you are creating a big universe like this, that some installments are not going to meet the expectations of people that were set with the first, especially when it's something very fresh and new. I mean, otherwise there wouldn't be so many different orders to watch Star Wars in. I'm about to start my 6-year-old on the Star Wars movies, and I've heard that machete order is the best way to do it for a young child, and then add back in that episode 1 because apparently 6-year-olds and me love Jar Jar.
Oh, Sarah, I'm with you. I don't know what the problem is with Jar Jar. For those of you who have never heard of Darth Jar Jar, you absolutely must go look at this video where he proves that Jar Jar was much more than you thought he was. So basically, Sarah, what you're saying is that the Star Wars movies are a good example of not necessarily that the second one wasn't as good, but just like it occurs to me that people are not arguing Star Wars or not Star Wars. They're arguing which parts of Star Wars versus other versions of which part, right? Is that kind of where you're going with that?
Yeah, I think everybody likes a certain element of something fresh and new, and it's not always the same element, and it's hard to maintain that same level. I mean, you don't want to keep everything turned up to 11 through an entire series. You have, highs and troughs, and sometimes you're going to lose people through the waves that happen. And
Okay. Well, fair enough. So Ellie, what about you?
Well, I was going to talk about the Disney terrible sequels, except for Frozen 2. Way better than the first one. But
true
I
story.
realized while I was waiting my turn, no, I need to talk about Kingdom Hearts. I don't know if y'all have played Kingdom Hearts, but I was there for the very beginning. All right. I was there for 1. I was obsessed. I was there for 2. I was obsessed. And then I pre-ordered 3, and it was supposed to come out for in the next 6 months. And then 6 months came around. It's gonna be another 6 months. And another 6 months. And another 6 months. And what are we, 13 years? And it's finally out after 13 years, and they've added all the new Disney movies that came out in the span of time that it took for this 3rd game to come out. But not only that, and back to the retcons, which is exactly what got me on this train of thought, realizing I need to talk about Kingdom Hearts.
Oh boy.
Retcons. Do you know how many prequel sequels there are for Kingdom Hearts? It's a lot, and they are all on handheld games. All right? And with each release, the story is the famously most arduous and complicated and confusing story there basically is in the video game world. There are just so many sequels that try and go back and explain this story or explain a little bit about that story, and we're trying to explain the backstories of these characters and those characters and all this, and now there's even one prequel that basically just said, oh, forget those rules and forget the rest of the story. We're just going to do our own thing and pretend like this is the new rule set now. Everyone ignores that game when thinking about the Kingdom Hearts series as a whole because it breaks the entire story. All the world building, all the character stories, it breaks it all. That one little prequel game. So everyone just ignores it because it breaks everything about it. And I don't know if you've seen the names for some of these, but one of them is Kingdom Hearts 365 over 2 or something. I don't remember. It's the most ridiculous names, but they kept going for those 12 or 13 years it took for the 3rd game to come out. So obviously everyone was like, 3 is finally coming out. Not 2.60, not 2.859. 3 is coming out finally. And it dropped. It dropped. The graphics are the exact same as the second one. It's been over a decade. Graphics. Have you seen God of War? Have you seen God of War? Have you seen those beautiful graphics that we can have now? It's been over 10 years. What happened? They just used the exact same skins. They used the exact same rendering.
It appears.
And like, even despite that, I could have looked past that. But there's really not much gameplay. It's basically watching a movie and maybe doing 5 minutes of just hitting triangle or hitting X over and over for 5 minutes. You don't even have to jump anymore. You don't have to jump. You don't have to move, because when you hit X, you auto lock onto your enemies. And you fly over to them, and you're just sitting there smacking them in the air, and you can just keep going. You are immortal. You are basically immortal. Sora is just going around smacking all the enemies while floating there.
Okay, now the funny thing is that's kind of the way I feel about Highlander 2. The flailing, the immortals, the graphics. No. I did not realize that question was going to set Ellie off that badly.
This is why I realized I can't talk about Disney sequels when I have Kingdom Hearts.
There's a passion there that we tapped into. What I would like to say for the record, we got really smoothly through the discussion about Jar Jar.
Yes.
By comparison. So guys, we are starting to run out of time here. Did anybody have any last parting shots on these 3 movies before we start getting out of here?
Well, I'm intrigued by what all the magic is in Hawk the Slayer. I'm intrigued by that. It's the sorcery part of the sword and sorcery, and I do have to say, yeah, if you haven't seen, anyone watching hasn't seen Highlander, I remember, like you said, Darren, I love the different kind of magic, if you will, in this that you hadn't really seen, that I know of, on the big screen before. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to this exercise. I'm definitely looking forward to this, despite all the criticism we will get when people see how we feel about these 3 movies or 4 movies. All right, guys. Ellie, Sarah, anything else before we pay the bills?
Can't wait to see it.
Excellent. Okay, so let me remind everybody that we are going to be doing once we've gotten a chance to watch these movies, we're going to record an after panel. We would love it if you guys would watch the movies and then join us for the after panel and see how you feel. I think we've already established that you're going to disagree with most of us most of the time, and that's exactly why we're here, is to have fun and have these fun little arguments about movies and things like that. Okay, so let's pay the bills here. I'm going to start with Kyle. Kyle, tell us again who you are and how people can track you down on the interwebs in case they want to disagree with you about something.
Oh, yes, please do. Kyle Mitchell, and you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. at Poet Kyle. And if you're interested in my books of poetry, a book called Slang that you can find online, most retailers, websites, and then Dream of Christmas. It's coming from holiday season, right? And that's on lulu.com.
Excellent. Sarah, how about you? Where can people find you?
My book, Double Crossing the Bridge, available for mature audiences only, is available on pretty much all platforms. I'm at sarahjsover.com and on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Sarah J Sover. Yeah.
Excellent. Ellie, how about you?
I guess since we're doing age ranges right now, my series is the Necroseme Chronicles, and it's PG-13. If your child is under 13, I suggest you read it first because it's pretty violent. But I also have a children's illustration coming out in the next month for any of the younger audiences. You can find me at ellierant.com or necroseme.com.
Excellent. And as usual, I'm Darren M. Bush. You can find my science fiction and fantasy short stories, which they range in maturity levels on my Amazon author store under Darren M. Bush. So guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say one more time, we're going to watch Hawk the Slayer, Dungeons and Dragons, and Highlander 1. And if you're feeling brave, Highlander Endgame to go with that. And we will see you guys at the after panel. We're going to wave goodbye to CONjuration. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you being here with us.
This has been a presentation of Tables of Content. What kind of stupid name is that?